Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 Spoilers channel. Victor pulls the strings as Michael goes deeper undercover. According to previews on The Young and the Restless, Michael Baldwin promised his wife something and then betrayed it. Viewers question why the best lawyer in Genoa City, Wisconsin, who is well off and has the option to retire, feels the need to be with Victor Newman. For many years, Victor exploited Michael as a tool. The word fixer is worn in this case. It means someone who cleans up the mess that their boss made. Lauren heads and is rich. If Michael hadn't already earned all the shady money Victor gave him throughout these soap opera years, she alone could support him until retirement thanks to her family's business. In addition to returning to work for Victor after a recent leave of absence, LeBlanc's character is also playing a risky double agent game, considering Lauren unimportant. This would not have happened if Michael had never left Victor. However, Lauren was quite happy with his latest decision to essentially retire. That incident ultimately caused him to concur with Lauren that following the mustache's instructions didn't make sense at this stage of life. But when Michael revealed to Victor that he had been a father figure to him, it reaffirmed intensely intimate feelings. That followed Ian Ward's alleged death and threat at the ranch. Therefore, Michael hasn't been able to completely distance himself from Victor since he believes that he is a father figure. A user is Kane Ashby. Kane Ashby in her new incarnation is a cunning person. Although Daniel Goddard wasn't a saint in his original book, he didn't have the enormous fortune that Flynn's character possesses. Kane wants to take over GC's legacy businesses and Newman Enterprises is the main target. His decision to include Michael in the inner group is dubious because of this. Why would someone work with Michael who is so risk-averse and cautious? Kane must have some inkling that Michael is tricking him. Kane doesn't pose the degree of threat Victor thinks he does if he doesn't. Baldwin, Michael redeems himself once more? Victor cannot be completely atoned for. He puts family members and others on edge by playing them. In order to stop Kane from succeeding, Michael agreed to serve as Victor's mole at Arabesque and provide inside knowledge. Phyllis Summers and Amanda Sinclair, who know Michael better than anyone else in this den of would-be daytime thieves, must be navigated by Kane's newest lawyer. Additionally, there is the Billy Abbott factor, which may or may not be beneficial. It's impossible to predict how Billy's run for chancellor will affect this intricate endeavor. For Michael, nothing matters more than Lauren's affection. However, a choice has been made. Michael feels confident that he can work Kane, please Victor, and prevent Lauren from questioning his sanity. In this fall, even the most accomplished lawyer will struggle to multitask like that. One of the best places to find anything related to The Young and the Restless is this website. For YNR news and spoilers, return often. Michael Baldwin's decision to once again entangle himself in Victor Newman's shadow games is one of those moves that doesn't just ripple across Genoa City, Wisconsin. It detonates like a carefully placed bomb beneath the foundations of every relationship he holds dear, most especially his marriage to Lauren, and in the grand tradition of The Young and the Restless, his supposed loyalty to Victor comes at a cost far greater than a signed legal contract or a courtroom victory. It represents a surrender of independence, a reaffirmation of Victor's uncanny ability to pull strings so tightly around those in his orbit that they find themselves tangled in webs they swore they had escaped years ago, and yet Michael's return to undercover work, this time as Victor's personal mole in Kane Ashby's growing empire, reveals both his fatal flaw and his greatest strength, the flaw being that for all his brilliance as a legal strategist and moral flexibility as a fixer, he cannot resist the pull of obligation and surrogate family ties, while the strength, paradoxically, lies in his mastery at compartmentalization, that razor-thin skill of smiling at Lauren in one breath and lying to Kane in the next, all while convincing himself that the greater good justifies the personal deception. And so, as Lauren watches her husband drift back into patterns she thought were left in the dust of Victor's past manipulations, the audience is reminded that soap marriages are rarely undone by lack of love. but rather by the insidious intrusion of outside forces that exploit trust, and Lauren, wealthy, powerful, and self-sufficient as the head of, doesn't need Michael's paycheck or his dangerous allegiance to Victor. What she needs is his presence, his fidelity, his attention, but Michael, trapped between Victor's role as a father figure and Kane's suspicious maneuverings to dominate Newman Enterprises and other legacy companies, rationalizes that playing both sides is a chess move only he can manage, underestimating not only Kane's sharp instincts but also the inevitable fallout that comes when secrets are revealed in the most public and humiliating fashion possible, a hallmark of Genoa City confrontations. And speaking of Kane, his evolution under Billy Flynn's portrayal into a calculating, resource-rich, legacy-chasing manipulator raises questions of identity. Because, while Daniel Goddard's Kane was a complicated man of charm, deceit, and redemption arcs, Flynn's edition walks into scenes with the aura of power already acquired, not struggling to gain, but strategizing how to expand, and his willingness to even humor Michael's entrance into his inner circle is perhaps the most telling sign of overconfidence, or perhaps of a larger scheme in which he expects Michael's betrayal and uses it as bait to draw Victor himself out from the shadows. And it is this possibility that underscores the peril Michael is truly in, not merely lying to Lauren or testing her patience, not merely risking his reputation as an attorney in Genoa City, but stepping onto a chessboard where both Victor and Kane play at grandmaster levels, with no care for pawns sacrificed along the way. Meanwhile, Amanda Sinclair, sharp-eyed and experienced, and Phyllis Summers, Michael's longtime confidant and sparring partner, lurk at the edges of this intricate game, both capable of sniffing out inconsistencies in Michael's demeanor, both inclined to press until truths spill forth, and Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, forever the wild card, could either crash the game entirely with one impulsive move or, perhaps unintentionally, hand Michael the very opportunity he needs to manipulate Kane from within. Yet the risk remains that Billy's own chancellor ambitions intersect destructively with Victor's goals, because if Billy sees Michael as a tool of Victor's interference, he won't hesitate to expose him. Consequences to Lauren be damned. And through it all, Victor Newman sits in his empire like the ever-watchful mustache, pulling threads with the calm certainty of a man who has destroyed and rebuilt empires countless times, knowing full well that Michael's loyalty, even when frayed, will always bend back toward him, a dynamic born not of money or legal advantage, but of paternal psychology, because when Michael told Victor he had been like a father to him, it wasn't hyperbole, it was confession, and that confession, once spoken, tethered him permanently, a son in spirit if not in blood, forever compelled to answer when Victor calls, no matter the personal cost. And here lies the tragic irony that Lauren, who has built an independent empire of her own, who has survived marriages, affairs, betrayals, and wars of corporate survival, is reduced to watching her husband succumb to the same pattern of obedience that once nearly broke them apart, wondering if his love for her is strong enough to outlast the gravitational pull of Victor's demands, or if she is forever destined to play second to the Newman legacy, even as an outsider. And the soap tension builds in the audience's chest because we know Michael's tightrope act cannot last, that the very thing he prides himself on, his ability to multitask loyalty to Kane, Victor, and Lauren, will be the reason he slips, because in Genoa City, no one can serve three masters without falling spectacularly, and when that fall comes, it will not merely be Michael's career at stake. It will be his marriage, his reputation, his very identity as a man who once clawed his way out of darkness to become respectable, only to risk it all again for the one man he cannot say no to, Victor Newman, the puppet master whose strings are spun from both loyalty and guilt, love and manipulation, ensuring that no matter how deep Michael goes undercover, he may never truly surface again, not without scars that even Lauren's love may not heal, leaving fans to speculate whether this arc is building toward Michael's ultimate redemption as the hero who finally outsmarts both Kane and Victor, or his tragic downfall as yet another victim of Victor's insatiable appetite for control, and that ambiguity, whether he is redeemer or casualty, is Exactly what makes this storyline one of the most compelling in years. And yet, as the weeks unfold and Michael sinks deeper into the undercover role that Victor has orchestrated, the line between duty and destruction becomes harder to distinguish, because every move he makes on Kane's chessboard is a gamble that risks exposure, and Kane, while charming and outwardly cooperative, has the instincts of a predator, watching Michael with a keen eye for hesitation, a slip of the tongue, or the faintest contradiction in his story. Kane is not a fool, and that is precisely why Victor sent Michael rather than another pawn, because Michael's brilliance lies in his ability to navigate the murky waters of morality with enough finesse to convince even skeptics of his sincerity. But the very fact that Victor chose him again, despite his vows to Lauren, proves that Victor sees Michael not as a retired friend or loyal ally, but as a tool that can always be picked up and sharpened for a new battle. Regardless of the cost to Michael's personal life, and herein lies the most heartbreaking truth for Lauren. Her husband may love her deeply, but he is incapable of walking away from Victor entirely, not because he needs the money or the power, but because his sense of belonging, forged decades ago when Victor first extended a hand to him, is tied irrevocably to the Newman patriarch. So, as Michael crafts excuses, comes home late with vague explanations, and insists that everything is under control, Lauren's instincts scream otherwise, and though she wants to trust him, she has been through too many wars to accept half-truths without bracing for betrayal, leading fans to wonder if Lauren will eventually confront Victor directly, demanding he release Michael from his grip, a bold move that could ignite an entirely new front in the conflict, because Victor is not accustomed to being challenged by those outside his inner circle, and Lauren, for all her elegance and strength, may underestimate just how little Victor values personal boundaries when it comes to achieving his goals. Meanwhile, Kane's scheme to dominate Newman Enterprises continues to unfold in subtle but dangerous ways, and his partnership with Michael, however tentative, becomes the perfect setup for a betrayal that could shatter more than one empire. Because if Kane uses Michael's duplicity to his advantage, not only does Victor risk exposure, but Michael could find himself the fall guy in a scandal that destroys both his legal career and his marriage, leaving Lauren to pick up the pieces of a man she once believed had finally escaped his demons. And just beyond the central players lurk Amanda Sinclair and Phyllis Summers, each with their own motivations, each with a history of catching Michael in lies before, and it is only a matter of time before one of them connects the dots, forcing Michael to either come clean or double down. And every soap viewer knows that doubling down is the surest path to explosive confrontations in Genoa City, the kind that play out in boardrooms, living rooms, and courtrooms with devastating clarity. The brilliance of this arc lies in its slow burn, in the way it reminds longtime fans of Michael's history of self-destruction and reinvention, of his bond with Victor as both savior and destroyer, and of Lauren's enduring love that may not survive another round of secrets. And so the question that hovers over this entire saga is not just whether Michael will succeed in outmaneuvering Kane, or whether Victor will once again come out on top, but whether Michael himself will finally reach the breaking point where he realizes that being Victor's fixer is not an honor, nor even an obligation, but a curse, one that costs him everything he claims to value most. And when that realization comes, as it inevitably must, the fallout will shake Genoa City to its core. Because the one man who thought he could dance on both sides of the fire may end up burned beyond recognition, both legally and emotionally, in a storyline that proves once again that in the young and the restless, loyalty to Victor Newman is both a gift and a death sentence.